It's 2001. Children are scrambling eyes on what's-her-face. Lindsey Bergman is the American Girl of the Year, and the toy world's ruler remains supreme. Barbie is sitting pretty as the #1 doll in the world. Unfazed, unchallenged, unbeatable. There is a balance that has lasted for decades with nothing really disturbing it. Enter Bratz. With their message of individuality only strengthened by their racial diversity and cutting-edge looks, they're igniting the world with a passion for fashion that's never been seen before. And where there's fire, there's always people trying to put it out.
Barbie's become a slut too because she can't compete with Bratz because that's what today's like. It's just full of a bunch of skanks and...
Brats are little whores. They are dressed so slutty. I don't know who at Mattel decided to make little plastic prostitutes and sell them to children. Brilliant idea.
I really don't want her to be a brat, and I don't think that really encourages the proper behavior, and I really don't like the way the dolls are dressed. I don't feel that's appropriate for them to be.
Bratz is a fashion doll line first released in May of 2001 by MGA. Presented as a group of 4 best friends in high school who love fashion, the dolls didn't take off until Christmas that same year. They only grew in popularity throughout the 2000s. Bratz being recognizable was an understatement. They were the center of controversy that aged poorly as time went by, but their demand kept growing. Mattel, Barbie's manufacturer, panicked about Bratz's ever-growing grip on the toy industry, but kids didn't notice any of that. They noticed the doll's fashion, their message, and despite what adults say, they also noticed the doll's skin colors. One of the most striking things about Bratz was their racial diversity. In the early 2000s, very few dolls had the same representation they had, which was one of their selling points at the time. For this doll line to be one of the first to feature a group of racially diverse characters, all intended to be different characters, was innovative in its own right. There were already brown and black dolls sold in stores, but they'd usually be brown versions of normally white dolls or token characters overshadowed by a protagonist. Bratz went beyond what was expected by not only presenting different girls of color, but also refusing to center a white character as a protagonist within the doll's fictional universes and marketing. In the primary group, consisting of Sasha, Chloe, Yasmin, and Jade, Chloe's the only white doll, in contrast to Sasha, who's African American, Jade, who's Asian American, and Yasmin, who isn't white but racially ambiguous with brown skin. And while these characters didn't have hard-set personalities in the beginning, the animated series and direct-to-DVD movies would flesh them out better over the years. Sasha is confident and loves music. Chloe's athletic and a drama queen, Yasmin is quiet and a writer, and Jade experimental and loves fashion the most. All 4 characters are presented together, a group of friends that each have their own favorite styles and passions besides fashion. Why are you laughing? It wasn't about Chloe and her racially diverse friends, but it was about all of them. Instagram-based artist Desiree Perry, who uses Bratz dolls as inspiration for her art, praised the line for including diverse dolls immediately upon its release. The fact they released a black doll on their first launch and it wasn't added in at a later date means we weren't an afterthought. Not even Barbie could compete with the racial diversity at the time, and arguably still can't. Her brand was, is, and will most likely always present a white, blonde, blue-eyed woman who wears a lot of pink. This was a fact that MJ took to its advantage, poking fun at Barbie's image in various Bratz media. 3 characters from the Bratz TV series and movies were direct references to Barbie, though not confirmed but glaringly obvious as an adult. Archaically fashioned Berdine Maxwell and her twin employees Kirsty and Casey, the Tweevils, would antagonize the main group who were spoiled, rude, and selfish. There were also white blondes with blue eyeshadow, blue eyes, and pink clothes, and they ran a magazine they hoped to destroy Bratz's own magazine. Since Mattel really was desperately trying to take back the monopoly they had before by using interesting methods, the jabs were pretty understandable, and deeper than I'm alluding to right now. I don't hate Barbie though. I had some dolls here and there, and I love the movies, and the doll franchise is neat, but Bratz had a hold on me that I still can't shake. And you can't talk about Bratz's impact without mentioning the absolute disaster that was the war between Mattel and MGA.
You are fine. Even your children and your grandchildren are fired!
Ida?
Fine. Now you see the spell circle is...
This is important, I swear! Because Bratz dolls are marketed together with their own quirks to them, it was easy for girls of color to identify with them and see themselves in the dolls' facial features, specifically their almond eyes and full lips. These features were highly exaggerated, of course, but they were features still notably tied to black people and other POC. Features all marginalized racial groups would specifically get mocked or sexualized for. People would accuse the Bratz dolls themselves of being too sexual, partially because of their full lips and quote-unquote sultry eyes. Which, we'll get back to it. Bratz wasn't just known for their diversity, but their fashion too. And if you've been paying attention, their looks are a sight to behold. Because they were primarily fashion dolls, Bratz were marketed to showcase the popular trends at the time: crop tops, baggy pants, frosty makeup, and so on. Their main line would feature commercials of tween and teen actors, maybe 12 to even 16 years old, interacting with actual dolls or animated versions of them, while the Bratz babies, ponies, and kids commercials had younger actors. This implied that the main line wasn't even intended for smaller children in the first place, and that they were for older girls who were still interested in fashion dolls. Though the marketing didn't stop Bratz from getting popular with little kids either, and I've been obsessed with them since I was old enough to play with dolls at all. Bratz style would largely take inspiration from urban fashion that was also popular in Black and Latino communities. With their faux fur coats and camouflage patterns, they were especially fashionable to children of color, who see their trends worn by people in their own communities or emulated by teen pop stars. But the dolls' fashion didn't stop there. They usually go for edgier and more alternative looks compared to the dress-up dolls that came before. They'd have colorful hair and even explore subcultures like goth and punk. And since the brand would sometimes make fun of Barbie's aesthetic, they'd use this to their advantage.
Not pink, punk.
Instead of prioritizing what parents would approve of, the brand kept their real audience in mind and made the dolls' aesthetics appealing to the actual people that play with them. Michael Barbaro published a 2006 New York Times article discussing the rebranding of Barbie at the time in response to Bratz's popularity, and included input from toy analyst Jim Silver. Bratz, which appealed to girls 7 and older, proved that the older girls who had begun to shun Barbie would play with the doll provided it struck the right mix of fashion and attitude, Mr. Silver said. The aesthetics that Bratz embodied would then be labeled by many parents as inappropriate for a kid's doll because of their makeup, their clothes, and the occasional marketing of these dolls going clubbing and dating. But Bratz's main line of characters were always teenagers. They drove cars, they went to prom, they went to high school, so they were obviously older than the younger kids that played with them. I don't think the Bratz Kids line would even exist if the primary group was already intended to be younger kids. Despite what many had said, Bratz stayed on brand throughout the 2000s and reeled in big profit. Their media made it clear that NJ knew who they were competing with and who had a problem with their product, and they still managed to modernize an age-old proverb that most other media have parroted before. So the saying "express yourself" isn't new by any means, but with the premise of these dolls and how alternative and controversial their fashion was, the message was stronger. Children of color could not only see themselves in Bratz dolls with their varying skin tones, full lips, and almond eyes, but in the fashion they wore too. More niche fashion wasn't just exclusive to dolls that looked like Chloe either. Because each doll line had several characters marketed with each other, they'd all inhabit the same concept they were promoted with. They were pirates, cowgirls, and even a rock band. A hard rock band. Check out my next video where I discuss the Rock Angels to Baby Metal / Meet Me at the Altar / Supergiant Hades soundtrack pipeline. With Bratz dolls, expressing yourself was much easier to do than with many other doll brands at the time. These dolls were diverse, and their fashion was creative and on point most of the time. MJ's direct-to-DVD movies also made it clear that they were aware of the backlash they got. Bratz Forever Diamonds features a character named Sheridan who lives in the fictional rural town Old Plainsville with parents who seem to parody many of the people that be angry about Bratz in the first place. With their heavier Midwestern accents and suburbanite clothes, Mr. and Mrs. Jones don't want their daughter leaving town in fear for her safety, reacting negatively when they catch her modeling the fashion she designed herself on the Bratz truck runway. Yeah, it's promo for the line, just go with it. Sheridan also tells the Bratz girls how her parents feel about her hobby.
Oh no, I come out here cause, well, my parents think this is kinda silly.
When the movie's antagonist Mandy tries discouraging the girls from letting Sheridan compete in the fashion designer contest, they confront her.
Well, each person has their own style, Mandy.
It doesn't have to appeal to everyone.
That's what fashion is all about. Taking risks and expressing yourself no matter what anyone else thinks.
There's also the Bratz Genie Magic movie based on the line of the same name. The all-powerful Tara Strong plays Katya, a genie sealed away from the world because of her valuable powers, which her strict father Sebastian once had himself before breaking his own genie lamp. After sneaking out and getting dragged back home, Sebastian's less than happy with her.
Who's done this to you? These clothes, that makeup!
Well, it is one of the few things I have any say in back home. He won't even let me wear makeup.
You're kidding!
These movies aren't trying to make huge statements for specific people, unless you're the head of Mattel, but the things some characters say are still something to make note of. The Bratz Rock Angels album, their best album, uses more self-aware lyrics too. The bonus track Grow Up Blah 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 is mostly about having fun and living life in spite of what people say. But some lines in the song read, "Everybody's telling me to grow up. Get a sensible haircut. You're wearing too much makeup." So, all in all, the Bratz dolls were, to lightly put it, pretty cool. They were diverse, they had immaculate looks, and their message of self-expression went well with their overall aesthetic. But as impactful as the brand is, the people behind them aren't perfect, which either showed in the dolls and media they produced, or through other means. For one thing, the Bratz Babies line didn't really age well because some of their faces were caked with makeup. They were cute when I didn't know any better, so yes, I admit that was a weird line, and putting makeup on baby dolls defeats the whole point because, you know, that's not what they're made for. And they're babies. Promo art and traditionally animated media featuring Yasmin and Sasha would frequently, but not always, lighten their skin when the actual dolls were darker than their 2D counterparts. Packaging for certain lines would make these even more jarring to see. The Bratz Genie Magic line was also ripe with Orientalism, a common phenomenon where Asia and North Africa are viewed through a stereotypical and colonialist lens, resulting in things like meshing cultures together and exoticizing the people from these regions. And based on some of the characteristics that make up Orientalism, it checks out with the Genie Magic line. The commercial even goes so far as to otherize the place these so-called gorgeous genies are from.
Far away in an exotic land live gorgeous genies.
In the Genie Magic movie, a background character nonchalantly calls Katya an ethnic slur, specifically the G slur. Starts with a G, ends with a Y, has a P in it. You've probably heard it before. But if you're not Romani, don't say it. Romani people have repeatedly said they don't like that word and it's extremely harmful. So if you're not Romani, don't use it to refer to anyone or anything. Mei Lin is also a secondary Bratz character who is Japanese but has a Chinese name. She was discontinued after her first and only appearance in the 2004 Tokyo A-Go-Go Collector's Edition. Then there's the NGA CEO himself. Isaac Larian has worked with the company for 40 years and has made public statements that were less than professional. After entrepreneur Amina Mucciolo accused MGA for stealing her likeness for their new doll line LOL Surprise, Larian went on Twitter to post now deleted tweets calling her a disgrace to black people for her accusations. You are a disgrace to black people and the BLM cause. Liar and coward. You are a liar and an extortionist and fraud. We will sue you for defamation, extortion, fraud, etc. Watch. Before he activated his account, he apologized and tagged Mucciolo in his post, but the fact that this happened at all hopefully says all that needs to be said about his character, especially when it comes to black people, ironically, considering how he himself hailed the Bratz brand as such a racially diverse line. He and his daughter, Jasmine Larian, have been pro-Israel too in heat of the country's colonization of Palestine. And very recently, Jasmine said that she supported Israel's right to defend itself, on Instagram before backtracking on that statement and privating her account. Israelis are kicking Palestinians out of their homes and destroying their communities because Israel believes they have the birthright to be there, and very violently so. So for people to say they support Israel, especially right now, means they are either very ignorant or malicious, or both. And we can't forget about the absolute banger that is the 2007 live-action film Bratz. I wish I could forget, but Kenny JD unlocked a memory I would have liked to keep hidden. Now it's happening all over again to fellow Bratz fans. You're welcome. But with all that in mind, I'm not saying you can't like these movies and dolls anymore. However, they're not all around perfect, and neither are the people behind them. Seems like that's really all there is to say about Bratz. They're iconic, they're flawed, they're inspirational. Case closed. Only, there's something else. Something that's been hovering over this entire video. It's haunted Bratz ever since their inception. If these dolls were so creative and important, then surely they were seen as a positive influence on children, right? With great popularity comes great controversy, which was most undeniable if you were an MGA employee working on Bratz dolls in the 2000s. Despite how Bratz grew to be very successful financially, they'd spark an overwhelming amount of backlash because of what they looked like and what they liked to do. The backlash was so bad that multiple parents would say that you were a bad person for giving children Bratz dolls. Really? Bratz were seen as a bad influence on kids, and if you gave one to your 5-year-old niece, then some people would think you're encouraging adult and uncooperative behavior. So if that's the case, then I guess my parents should be thrown in jail, because they bought me over 15 Bratz dolls growing up and a good chunk of merch, including but not limited to the Lit Boombox, the Rock Angels Party Jet, the Rock Angels CD, the Champagne Clark Classic Cruiser, and the Rock Angels Band Instrument Set. That's just grounds for child endangerment.
Be like prison food.
The most common accusations were of sexualization and promoting bad body image to girls. But looking at many of these posts now, it's hard to ignore the blatant misogynistic and racially charged comments people would make when describing these dolls. More ironically so, when much of the vulgarity of these statements came from feminists. White feminists, of course. I mean, there were some outspoken skinfolk. Bratz versus Barbie. Then there must be something wrong with a whole lot of us because we all see dolls that look, for lack of a better word, a little slutty. But in my daughter's eyes, the war is pretty much won. Face it, mommy, Bratz are just cooler, she told me recently, and I miss Barbie and all her blonde glory a little more. But it was notable that many of the people vocally against Bratz were also white. With the doll's clothes, heavy makeup, and full lips, many people deemed Bratz as too adult for kids' toys and would usually claim they're hypersexualized. In 2007, the APA, yes, that APA, reported on the sexualization of girls in the media and said that Bratz contributed to it, using the dolls as an example with sexualized clothing such as miniskirts, fishnet stockings, and feather boas. But shorter, more glamorous clothes aren't inherently sexual, nor are the people that wear them. The clothes these dolls wore weren't really that revealing either, and they were never framed sexually in the media they were in. They were fabulous, cool, edgy, but not sexy. This goes for the makeup too. Heavy makeup can just be heavy makeup without it being sexual. Wait, feather boas are still considered sexual? I'd get it if this were the 70s maybe, but I don't remember feather boas being seen this way. Kids wear them all the time for dress up. Like, what? The accusations of promoting certain body standards also fall immediately flat when considering the doll's designs. Bratz look too cartoony to even look similar to real girls. Giant heads and faces, tiny bodies, Kingdom Hearts feet that come off, and no actual noses. Barbie, arguably, has a more realistic body type. I don't see anyone getting giant head implants like Bratz dolls, but surgery to look more like Barbie is more common than you probably think it is. Bratz were never meant to look realistic either. Carter Bryant, Bratz creator and former Mattel employee, took inspiration from the big-headed Steve Madden shoe ads from the 90s, which also exaggerated the models' proportions and gave them tiny bodies that further accentuated their shoes. So it's not that there can't be a conversation about representing certain body types within kids' media, but this is definitely not the place to start.
I want to be a good parent. I want her to feel good about herself, about her head.
I mean, we all want to be the woman with the head out to here, but at some point you have to say that you're okay with your little head and be okay with having a nose.
There's the inherent sexualization of the doll's features too, like their full lips and almond eyes. People claim their lips and eyes made them look sexual, mean, antagonistic, bratty even. The same people who made these kinds of claims very rarely, if ever, acknowledge that girls of color naturally had these same facial features the dolls did, disproportionate as their faces may be. And with society's tendency to sexualize black and brown women's natural features, it was more noticeable where the disdain for Bratz would usually come from. Many POC who grew up with Bratz can now recall how some of their white peers couldn't play with the dolls because their parents thought they were inappropriate. University of Florida student Gabby Malazzo says that the dolls were normal to her growing up because they resembled the people who looked like her in her family. I remember I had a lot of white friends who weren't allowed to play with them growing up because they were dressed in certain ways, had big lips, stuff like that. That was something I never understood because my mom let me play with them just fine. Probably because, as a Hispanic woman, she didn't see a problem with big lips because that's just how we are. Though many adults claim the dolls are sexualized, it was common to use loaded language when describing them anyway. Tons of online posts and videos would say the Bratz themselves were sexist because of the type of femininity they depicted, but then turn around in these same posts and call them derogatory gendered insults in the same breath, even in more feminist and professional spaces. So for people to demonize these clothes and features that are largely inspired by the things Black and Latino communities had was troubling. There's this ABC News Nightline report where the reporter in question asks Isaac about Bratz's appearance, and it's something.
I look at that Bratz doll, she's wearing, the leopard skin top, she's got the sequins, she's got the hairs. I mean, people have compared them to streetwalkers. They look a little, trashy.
But that doesn't hold a candle to all these online posts I found. Dear God, they are a trip and a half. Oversexed and over here, the tardy Bratz doll. The Bratz, a clique of sultry-eyed trollops with a slogan, a passion for fashion, have come from nowhere in just 5 years to threaten the crown of the Queen Bee Barbie, the world's most successful toy. Bratz. Those parents who prefer their children not to dress like crack whores could be forgiven for approaching Bratz the movie with some caution. Mom and dad can, thus, take the little ones to Bratz without any fear they will be lured into a life of vice. Sadly, the film is so sanctimonious, so worthy, and so compromised in its intentions, the little plastic hookers do still exist, remember, that it ends up being no fun whatsoever. Cuts and perms and brats and whores and little lambs eat ivy. Dear business world, if your business's name ends in an S, please do not spell it with Z instead. It's not cute, it is not cool, and while it does grab my attention, it doesn't do so in the way you think it does. And even if those slutty Bratz dolls were cute and didn't cost $1 million a piece and didn't look like nickel hookers and had real feet, I wouldn't buy one. Because someone in your marketing department thought Bratz was a cute way to spell work that actually means gross, disgusting child. Most people get those for free with just a little lax parenting. Only a fool would buy one with hard-earned dollars. Just say no to Bratz. For those of you without daughters or who are otherwise happily living in oblivion, Bratz are the scourge of wholesome mothers everywhere. These plastic pin-sized dolls, a little like Barbie but even less cerebral, are the certified tramps of the toy aisle. All sass, no class. These little girl dolls wear more makeup and less clothing than many of the hookers regularly using my block as a meetup. What a time when people would unironically call women sluts and whores and devalue them based on how much sex they had and what clothes they wore, while these same people call themselves feminists and advocates for positive change for women, as if women couldn't be feminists while being sexy and wearing revealing clothes. It's not like they had different facets to them as people and still deserve respect no matter what they chose to do with their bodies, particularly so when sex workers were dehumanized in the butt of most of these jokes and insults. Glad that era's over, and we never have to worry about that kind of phenomenon ever again where other girls and women saw themselves as better than their female peers because they didn't wear short skirts or liked makeup. Not like those other girls who are stupid and shallow and slutty. I can't believe society has progressed enough that this isn't a problem anymore. In defense of Barbie, why she might be the most feminist doll around. Barbie is being pushed out in favor of younger, sluttier dolls with bigger heads. First, those brats with their outrageously puffed up lips, heavy makeup, and feather boas. Now it's Monster High dolls, who dress like prostitutes and have the dimensions of lollipops. It's hard not to feel sorry for her. Ruthlessly attacked, snatched out of the hands of doting 6-year-olds by politically correct parents, and usurped by fishnet-clad hussies with none of her dignity and professionalism, Barbie Doofy keeps paying the insurance on her Barbie Glam convertible and the mortgage on her Malibu dream house. Aha! So she's not like other girls. Hey, wait a minute. God, we're not even at the Mattel mini section yet. Oh, I'm right. The Tree Change dolls. Who could forget the Tree Change dolls? In 2015, Tasmanian mom Sonia Singh became an overnight sensation for repainting secondhand Bratz dolls and making them look younger than they were, removing their makeup, cutting their hair, and giving them new clothes. Calling them Tree Change dolls, Singh said she didn't want to start a movement, but that didn't stop parents from making her business selling these made-under characters. And the reaction was swift. News outlets told her story, people were rushing online to praise her and buy her creations, and moms everywhere were repainting Bratz dolls of their own.
You see a girl who can't form ideas because her lips are in the way.
The problem stems from using misogynist language to describe the dolls and implying that women and girls who like this kind of fashion can't be feminist simply for what they wear. The comments under the Tree Changes Facebook were expected at this point, and so were the headlines and articles describing the dolls and their successors. I always thought that the Bratz dolls looked like cheap hookers, not the image I'd want my little girl playing and identifying with. They look real and happy now. I love these folks. Look like real people and not oversexed little girls. These dolls look like they can see the skies and stars for the first time in their life. You take something that is oversexed and absurd and turn it into something beautiful and innocent. These Bratz dolls got an amazing feminist makeover. This artist is giving Bratz dolls an awesome feminist makeover. Bratz remixed. Hypersexualized dolls turn into aspiring female role models. Rehab gets Bratz dolls out of illy nightclubs and into playgrounds. While the original Bratz girls look disturbing, Singh's Tree Change dolls actually look happy, healthy, and sweet, and natural. What a concept! Singh's dolls look ready to climb trees, play with toys, and cuddle with mom, not to go to the sleazy alien nightclub those Bratz dolls just stumbled out of. Girls playing with frilly dolls makes my feminist blood turn cold. Yes, that's the title. Facebook users have clasped Singh's dolls to their online bosom, praising her for offering a more recognizable image of girlhood than the tarted up Bratz. And she, in turn, has released videos showing people how to upcycle their own dolls. Even Singh's husband gets in on the Bratz hate. In reference to how they present themselves in the Feed's Tree Change doll video, he said,
"The dolls, when they're incredibly made up, they look like they're doing it for everyone else, where Sonia's dolls look like they're doing it for themselves."
But not everything women and girls do is for attention. Really male attention if we're being honest. Lots of girls wear bold makeup and present dramatic femininity without it ever involving how guys would react. I wear heels because they're cute. When I buy stuff with glitter on it, that's just because I love glitter. Seems like a lot of men don't even want women dressing a certain way anyway, or else they're easy, or thoughts, or whatever word society comes up with next to insult women somewhere, somehow.
You see a girl who can't form ideas because her lips are...
Many Tree Change repaintings and others like them would also remove the ethnic facial features the dolls had before, like making their eyes rounder and their lips thinner. Ironically, some make-unders remove previous beauty marks entirely. I guess real-life girls don't have moles on their faces?
You see a girl who can't form ideas because her lips are in the way.
And you know what? The sexist and racist undertones describing Bratz are still kicking to this day. There's not much I could find, but don't worry, I found something. Why I despise Bratz. I mean, what's the worst these dolls could do? They're just a bunch of plastic, cloth, and paint, right? But nope, I couldn't let it go. To me, they were more than that. To me, they were poison to my girl's confidence, a cancer to the sense of worth. And then there was this below, a trend where girls, hundreds of them, took to desperate measures to try and look exactly like the Bratz dolls they idolized. Boy, shortly after this came the release of the baby Bratz dolls, which are basically toddlers dressed as hookers, heavy makeup, leather lingerie, collars, heels, the whole 9 yards. I see a direct correlation between a generation who grew up with Bratz dolls who now try as hard as humanly possible to look like this. Makeup, injections, fashion, everything. It was Barbie for millennials, but for Gen Z, it's Bratz, which is actually worse. These are dolls for 5-year-olds. Okay, Bratz babies are not new. They came out in 2004. These doll comparison photos in that blog post are from the Bratz Challenge in 2019. People just want to see if they could replicate the makeup. They weren't doing it because they hated themselves. They were doing it for fun, to take inspiration from the toys they grew up with. And speaking of, these dolls right here aren't even 4 or 5-year-olds. They're from the 2018 collector's edition for the adults who grew up with Bratz and have the money to be doll collectors or even just to have it. What the? Ugh. Considering all this, you'd think Elsa wouldn't be hailed as a feminist icon even back in 2013. She's a Disney character intended for kids with heavy makeup, heels, a tight glittery dress with a slit in it, and a signature sly look on her face. Bright purple eyeshadow on full display, but guess she's just built different. Now the time has finally come, the ever so legendary feud between Barbie and Bratz. But how bad was it exactly? Maybe it amounted to a couple of jabs at each other in the movies? Well, Bratz only really took off after the Christmas of 2001. After that, they flew off shelves. They brought in $1 billion worth of annual sales in 2005, and in 2006, they even outsold Barbie in the UK. They were the first doll brand to really compete with her, and Mattel was pissing their pants. They were quaking in their boots. It was bad. Barbie was losing her grip on little girls everywhere. So in 2002, Mattel really had to think outside the box by first making a Little Bratz ripoff of 4 racially diverse teenagers with glamorous fashion, fuller lips, and bigger heads. They sold pretty well, but they weren't as popular as their competition. But for some reason, they didn't get nearly as much backlash as Bratz did. Anyway, Mattel sued MGA and Carter Bryant in 2004 for copyright infringement and stealing trade secrets because Mattel believed Bryant's designs were theirs when he quit working for them in 2000 and started working for MGA the following year. And Bryant said he got the design ideas from the Steve Madden shoe ads, which campaign photographer Butch Belair then sued MGA for in 2009 for design infringement. Holy crap. So MGA sued Mattel in 2011 and claimed the company was sending out employees to spy on MGA's showrooms to steal ideas. And then MGA sued them again in 2014 for the same claim. And whenever they'd sue each other, Mattel would lose several times. They'd have to pay big money in these settlements. But when they launched Monster High in 2010, MGA also made a ripoff of those same dolls in 2012 that were discontinued 2 years later. And these little shenanigans would just keep happening over and over again until Mattel sued MGA in 2009, forcing MGA to take Bratz on hiatus until the following year, redesigning the dolls for a rebranding. This didn't go so well. Eventually, the Bratz brand was on its last legs. MGA couldn't take the mommy blogger backlash any longer, nor Mattel's mission to take them down. After another hiatus that lasted 2 years this time, the dolls were redesigned again in 2015. They were drastically revamped and toned down. The plastic was cheaper, the makeup was lighter and brighter, the eyes are whiter, and the clothes... Oh god. The dolls were rebranded to emphasize their individual personalities instead of loving fashion and going out together, aiming for a younger audience and becoming very much of its time by throwing things like selfies into the mix. Fans of the original Bratz are appalled at this new look because the edge and risk-taking were gone. At least a few others welcomed it with open arms. New Bratz dolls tell girls it's good to be yourself. After being on vacation for a couple of years, a new and improved version of the dolls will hit store shelves on July 25th, and they've got a look and message that won't make parents cringe. But it wasn't enough. In 2016, Bratz was discontinued for mass production, suddenly disappearing from toy aisles everywhere. What once dominated sales crumbled under pressure and wiped away what made it popular. The girls with the passion for fashion were gone, and they were gone for good, where Karens could happily dance in their graves for the rest of time. Just kidding! During the early to mid 2010s, Bratz was falling out of favor for most kids. They weren't as popular as they were in their heyday, and it seemed they'd stay in the 2000s. That was until doll collectors and fashion designers started making clothes for them, and they looked really good. Thousands of handmade, fan-made fashions for the dolls went viral online and were reposted everywhere for Tumblr and Pinterest users all over to add to their aesthetic boards. So FYI, if you're trying to claim the dolls are too adult by showing these photos, then 9 times out of 10, a fan designed it and not the actual brand. Don't make yourself look like more of a fool than you already have, for everyone's sake. The characters also resurfaced through usage of reaction memes from Bratz media, like commercials, direct-to-DVD movies, and even video games. This ew meme you've heard everywhere came from the Rock Angels movie. This disheveled meme wouldn't have been possible without who I assume is Yasmin in the photo. I don't know, it's hilarious either way. The internet loves Bratz. People use them for profile pics, makeup and fashion inspiration, and more. I mentioned there was even a whole Bratz makeup challenge in 2019, and MJ released a collector's edition in 2018. It made sense that the characters would regain their popularity on the internet, with everyone's totally valid Y2K obsession and nostalgia for things they grew up with. As millennials, I mean. Or Gen Z? Am I millennial? I was born in 1999, but I'm not really a 90s kid because I only experienced. And since the 20-year rule dictates that things from the past 2 decades will be popular now, the rekindled love for Bratz couldn't have come at a better time, especially when the doll's 20th anniversary was this May. What a coincidence. It just so happens that MJ and Mattel are also going at it yet again. God!
I just wish we could all get along like we used to in middle school. I wish that I could bake a cake made out of rainbows and smiles and we'd all eat it.
You know what's really funny is that I started making this video before all this Bratz stuff fell into my lap and before I even knew about their 20th anniversary. The official Twitter is teasing a show, I hope, on Netflix. I hope even more. They just released a makeup palette. I got a Rock Angel shirt a month ago from Hot Topic and it was worth it. And Curtis Connor recently made a video on them and Barbie movies.
Coincidence? I think not!
I guess this is as good a time as any to get a little more personal with my overall experience with these competitive dolls. Like I said before, I think Barbie as a whole is neat, and her never-ending revolving door of jobs is inspirational. I really liked her in a fairy magic thing. But when I was a little girl, the last thing Barbie was known for was her racial diversity. I was millions of other kids who could only get brown and black versions of white character dolls. It was so apparent to me that I complained to my parents about it once. I wanted the white Princess and Pauper dolls. I was so in denial that I tried convincing my parents I was white just like Barbie by pointing to my palms and the soles of my feet. And I believed it too. That was the night I realized I was black because my parents told me. I saw my brown skin for what it was. I didn't understand the concept of race yet, but I knew that the dolls I got weren't the real Barbie. The princess specifically wasn't blonde, blue-eyed, and pale. She was dark-haired, dark-eyed, and lightly tanned. And I noticed that. But I never felt that way with Bratz, because I already had a character with a name I could identify with. I didn't get a brown version of a normally white doll, I got Sasha, or Yasmin once or twice. And every time I saw these girls on TV, I noticed that. I'd noticed Chloe, Jade, Yasmin, and Sasha. I changed Sasha and Yasmin's names when I played with them anyway, but outside of that, I knew they were different characters because they had different names and clothes and personalities that bounced off each other and the media I consumed with them. I really resonated with that. I thought they were really cool. Their clothes were cool, their overall attitude was cool, their friendship was cool, and all those things about them still are. Every couple of months or weeks, I listen to the music and look up fan-made fashion and remember how Bratz really changed the game for everyone, including me, a self-proclaimed feminist. So I'm more than glad to see the revival. Bratz may not be a perfect doll brand, but it managed to do things that other brands couldn't and still resonates with people to this day, reviving a passion for creativity and self-expression that never really grew out of style.